The cold bit through Marcus Reeves' thin shirt as the guard shoved him through the iron doors. His architect's hands, used to holding design tablets and sketching dreams of buildings, now trembled as they met the damp air of the arena. 3 days ago, he'd been drafting plans for a greenhouse on colony ship Perseus. Now he stood in an alien coliseum, surrounded by darkness and the smell of fear. His eyes adjusted slowly to the dim blue light filtering from above. The floor was rough stone, ancient and stained. Then he saw them, 2 figures huddled together in the center of the space, their bodies wrapped in heavy chains that gleamed dully in the half-light. Sisters. He could tell immediately from the way they held each other. The older one's arms, wrapped protectively around the younger, despite the metal biting into her wrists. The older one had long, auburn hair matted with dirt, falling across shoulders that tried to stay squared despite everything. Her eyes, when they lifted to meet his, were the color of storm clouds, gray and fierce, even through the exhaustion. She couldn't have been more than 26 or 27. The younger sister was curled against her, maybe 20 years old, with the same auburn hair, but lighter, more golden where it caught the light. Her face was buried against her sister's shoulder, and her body shook with silent sobs. "Move forward, human." The voice came from behind, mechanical and cold through a translator. Marcus stumbled forward, his warm work boots scraping against stone. Around the arena's edges, shadows moved. Alien spectators, their forms barely visible in the darkness, waiting. He could feel their eyes on him like physical weight. A figure emerged from the far side tall, draped in ceremonial armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The creature's face was angular, almost beautiful in its symmetry, but the eyes were wrong. Too large, too knowing, and filled with something that made Marcus's stomach turn. "I am Vorlak," the being announced, its voice resonating through the space without need for amplification. "Arena Master of the 3rd Sector. You have been chosen for today's entertainment, human." Marcus's throat was dry. "I don't understand. I'm just an architect. I was on a civilian ship. Your profession matters nothing here." Vorlak moved closer, circling him like a predator. "What matters is the choice you will make. These 2 females," he gestured carelessly toward the sisters, "are guilty of harboring rebels. By our law, one must die. But I am feeling generous today." The word generous dripped with mockery. "You will choose which one lives," Vorlak continued. "The other will be executed immediately, here, before your eyes. You have until the sand runs empty." He pointed to an hourglass Marcus hadn't noticed before, already tilted, already counting down. "Make your choice, or both die." The world seemed to tilt. Marcus looked at the sisters, really looked at them for the first time. The older one had lifted her head now, and despite the chains, despite the dirt and fear, her eyes burned with defiance. She was beautiful, not in the polished way of the women in the colony's entertainment feeds, but in the way a storm was beautiful, raw and real. "Don't listen to her," the younger one suddenly spoke, her voice cracking. Nora, somehow, Marcus knew that was her name before anyone said it. "Please, I'm so scared. I don't want to die. I'm only 20. I haven't even." "Hush, Nora." The older sister's voice was gentle but firm. Sienna. Her name came to him in the same instinctive way. "It's going to be all right." But it wasn't going to be all right. Nothing about this was all right. Marcus's mind raced. He was an architect, trained to see structures, to find weaknesses, to understand how things were built and how they could fall. His eyes swept the arena, the chains, the walls, the positions of the guards in the shadows. "I can't," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't choose between them." Vorlak's laugh was like breaking glass. "Then you are weak. Perhaps we should start with you instead." A blade materialized in his hand, glowing with sickly green energy. "Wait." Sienna's voice rang out, stronger than before. "I'll make it easy for him. Take me. Let Nora live. She's young. She has her whole life ahead of her. I'm her guardian. This is my choice." "No." Nora struggled against the chains, her face desperate. "Sienna, no, don't do this. I can't lose you. You're all I have left." Marcus watched as Sienna touched her sister's face with chained hands, tender despite the metal. "You're strong, Nora. Stronger than you know. You'll survive this. You'll play music again. You'll see Earth. You'll fall in love. I'll have nothing without you." Nora's sob echoed through the arena. Something cracked in Marcus's chest. He'd lost his own brother to the alien raids 2 years ago. He remembered that pain, that hollow feeling of incompleteness that never quite healed. He couldn't let it happen again. Not if there was any way to stop it. His eyes fell on the chains again. Old design. Magnetic lock system. Probably 3rd generation from before the war. He'd seen similar mechanisms in the ship's cargo bay. He'd even helped repair one once. Just out of curiosity about the engineering. His hand drifted to his belt, where his small multi-tool still hung. The guards had overlooked it after all. What threat was a tool meant for drawing and measuring? The sand in the hourglass was half-gone. Marcus made his decision. "I need to see them closer," he said loudly, his voice steadier than he felt. "To make a proper choice, let me examine them." Vorlak's eyes narrowed, but after a moment he gestured permission. "Make it quick, human. Your time runs short." Marcus dropped to his knees beside the sisters, his hands shaking as he reached toward them. Up close, he could see the fear in Nora's amber eyes, the exhaustion in Sienna's face. But he could also see the faint hope beginning to kindle as his fingers brushed against the chains. "Trust me," he whispered, so quietly only they could hear. "I'm going to get you both out of here." Sienna's eyes widened slightly. Her lips formed a silent question. "How?" Marcus's fingers found the magnetic lock on Nora's left wrist. "Just stay still. And when I say run, you run. Don't look back." The multi-tool slipped from his belt into his palm. He pretended to study Nora's face, making a show of agonizing over his decision, while his other hand worked at the lock mechanism. The guards were watching, but they were watching his face, not his hands. Click. The first tumbler released, silent beneath the murmur of the crowd. "Time grows short." "Human," Vorlak called out. "This isn't an easy choice," Marcus responded, letting frustration color his voice. "You're asking me to condemn someone to death. Someone innocent." "Innocence is relative," Vorlak said. "And irrelevant. Choose now." Click. The second tumbler. Sienna had noticed what he was doing. Her gray eyes locked with his, and in them, Marcus saw something that made his heart skip, not just gratitude, but recognition. As if she saw him not as a stranger forced into an impossible situation, but as someone worth knowing, worth trusting. The sand was nearly gone. "I've made my choice," Marcus announced, standing abruptly. The chain on Nora's left wrist was loose now, held in place only by gravity and the pressure of her arm. "But I won't speak it. I won't give you that satisfaction." Vorlak's expression darkened. "Then both die." "No," Marcus said. "Neither dies." And in one fluid motion, he grabbed Nora's arm, yanking the loose chain free, and dove for the hourglass. His body slammed into the pedestal, sending the glass tumbling to the stone floor, where it shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces. "If there's no time," Marcus gasped, "there's no choice." For one heartbeat, the arena was absolutely silent. Then Vorlak screamed his rage, and chaos erupted. The arena exploded into motion. Guards surged forward from the shadows. their armor clanking like death bells. Marcus grabbed Nora's freed hand and yanked her upward, his other arm reaching for Sienna. The other cuff. Sienna shouted, her right wrist still locked in the heavy chain attached to the floor. Marcus's fingers fumbled with his multi-tool, but Vorlich was already crossing the distance between them, his blade raised high. The green energy crackled, illuminating his furious face. "You dare!" Vorlach's words cut off as Nora, with strength born of pure terror, swung her freed chain like a whip. The metal caught Vorlich across the face, sending him staggering backward. Marcus worked frantically at Sienna's remaining lock. His hands were slick with sweat, the tiny tool slipping against the mechanism. Come on, behind you." Sienna's warning came just in time. Marcus rolled left as a guard's blade slammed into the stone where he'd been kneeling, sending sparks flying. But the impact had done something unexpected. The vibration traveled through the floor, and the old magnetic system already compromised by Marcus's tampering gave up entirely. Sienna's chain fell away with a metallic clatter. "Run!" Marcus hauled both sisters to their feet. His architect's eye had already mapped the arena during those terrible moments of forced choice. There a drainage grate near the eastern wall, partially hidden by shadow. It was old construction, probably original to the building. If the pattern held true, ... they sprinted across the arena floor. Nora stumbled, her legs weak from days of imprisonment, but Sienna caught her, half dragging her sister forward. Marcus led them, dodging guards who were still disoriented by the sudden chaos. An energy blast seared past Marcus's ear, so close he could smell burned hair. He didn't look back. The grate was smaller than he'd hoped, maybe 3 feet square, covered in decades of rust and neglect. Behind them, Vorlich's voice thundered orders. "Seal the exits. No one leaves. I want them alive." Marcus dropped to his knees, wedging his multi-tool into the grate's corner. The metal was corroded, but still stubborn. "Help me," he grunted. Sienna knelt beside him, her hands finding purchase on the opposite edge. Together they pulled. Marcus felt something tear in his shoulder, but the grate shifted an inch. Another inch. Nora stood above them, her face pale, watching the guards close in. "They're coming." 20 seconds, maybe less. Almost there. The grate came free with a shriek of protesting metal. Below was darkness and the sound of running water. "You first," Marcus told Nora. But Sienna was already pushing her sister toward the opening. "No arguments, move." Sienna's voice had that steel in it again. The protectiveness that had made her offer herself in the arena. Nora dropped into the darkness. A splash echoed up a moment later, followed by her voice. "It's deep. Like a canal or something." Sienna looked at Marcus. In the blue arena light, with guards bearing down on them, she was still the most striking person he'd ever seen. "Thank you," she said, "for not choosing." "Thank me when we're out," he replied. "Go." She went through the opening like water, graceful despite everything. Marcus glanced back once Vorlich was 15 feet away, his blade raised, his face twisted with rage, and then dove into the darkness. The fall was shorter than expected. Cold water shocked through him, stealing his breath. Strong hands grabbed him, Sienna, pulling him to the surface. The water came up to their chests, moving with steady current. Above, Vorlach's face appeared at the grate, backlit by arena lights. "You think you've won? These tunnels run for miles, human. They all lead back to us. You've only chosen a slower death." "Then I'll take slow over immediate," Marcus called back. Already pulling the sisters downstream with the current, they moved through the darkness, the water cold enough to numb their legs. Behind them, the sounds of the arena faded, replaced by the echo of their own splashing and ragged breathing. "Where does this go?" Nora asked, her teeth chattering. "Away," Marcus said. "That's enough for now." They walked for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. Marcus's architect training helped. He noted the slope of the tunnel, the direction of water flow, the occasional maintenance shaft leading upward. They were moving toward the outer sectors of whatever city this was. Finally, Sienna stopped, leaning against the tunnel wall. Wait, just wait a moment. They stood in the darkness, catching their breath. Marcus could hear Nora crying softly, the adrenaline wearing off and leaving only the terror of what they'd survived. "Hey," he said gently. "We made it. You're both alive. Because of you," Sienna's voice came from his left. "You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most foolish. Can't it be both?" Marcus tried for humor, but his voice shook. A soft sound, Sienna laughing, brief and unexpected. "Yes, I think it's definitely both." The tunnel opened ahead into a larger chamber. Faint light filtered down from somewhere above street level, maybe, or maintenance access. As they emerged into the space, Marcus could finally see more than shadows. Sienna stood with water dripping from her hair, her prison clothes torn and filthy, but her eyes bright with something fierce and alive. Nora huddled against her sister, looking younger than her 20 years. "I'm Marcus," he said, realizing they'd never actually been introduced. "Marcus Reeve. I am an architect. From Colony Ship Perseus." "Sienna Thorne," she replied. "Botanist. And this is my sister, Nora. She's a musician. Or was, before double quotes, she trailed off." "Still am," Nora said quietly. "Still am." A sound echoed down the tunnel behind them, distant but unmistakable. Voices, boots on stone. "They're searching the tunnels," Marcus said. "We need to keep moving." But Sienna was studying the chamber, her botanist's eye catching something Marcus had missed. "Look, there, growing from the walls. Luminescent moss, casting a faint greenish glow." But more importantly, it was earth moss, a variety that had been spread across human colonies decades ago. "There are humans nearby," Sienna said. "Or there were. This moss doesn't grow naturally on alien worlds. Someone cultivated it." Hope, fragile but real, sparked in Marcus's chest. "Can you follow it? Track where it's thickest?" Sienna nodded, already moving toward the brightest patches. "It grows toward moisture and organic matter. If there's a settlement, the moss will grow toward their wastewater systems." They followed Sienna's guidance through the twisting tunnels. Marcus stayed close to Nora, who stumbled frequently on the uneven ground. Twice he caught her before she fell, and the second time she whispered, "Thank you for choosing both of us. Sienna would have made me live, but I couldn't, not without her." "I know," Marcus said. "I lost my brother 2 years ago, to a raid." "I understand." Nora's hand found his in the darkness and squeezed. The tunnels began to change. The walls showed signs of modification, support beams made from salvaged materials, crude lighting strips long dead but still mounted. Someone had lived here or tried to. "There," Sienna pointed ahead. "Light, real light." They approached cautiously. The tunnel opened into a vast underground cavern, and Marcus's breath caught. It was a settlement or the ruins of one. Makeshift buildings constructed from ship parts and scavenged materials, arranged in streets that spoke of human design. But everything was dark, abandoned. "What happened here?" Nora whispered. Sienna was already exploring, her botanist instincts leading her to examine the dried-out gardens, the empty water systems. They left in a hurry. Look tools still in place, supplies scattered. Something made them run. Marcus found a building that looked structurally sound, a former residence maybe, built into the cavern wall. "We can rest here, just for a little while. Get our bearings." Inside, they found evidence of the previous inhabitants. Human belongings, clothes, even some dried food stores. Nora collapsed onto a makeshift bed, exhaustion finally claiming her. Sienna and Marcus stood in the doorway, looking out at the ghost settlement. "How did you know?" Sienna asked quietly. "About the chains. The locks. I'm an architect, but I'm curious. I like understanding how things work. How they're built." He paused. "How they can be taken apart." She turned to look at him, and in the dim light, he saw her truly for the first time. The strength in her face, the intelligence in her eyes, the way she held herself, despite everything she'd endured. "In the arena," Sienna said, "when Vorlek made his demand, I was ready to die. I'd made peace with it. But then you knelt down beside us, and I saw something in your eyes. Determination. Refusal. You weren't going to let his game play out the way he wanted." "I couldn't," Marcus said simply. "It was wrong. All of it. Most people would have chosen. Saved one, at least. I'm not most people, I guess." Sienna smiled then, really smiled, and it transformed her face. "No, you're definitely not." A sound from outside made them both freeze. Voices again, closer now. The guards had followed them. "We can't stay," Marcus said. But Sienna was looking at something else. A map scratched into the wall of the dwelling. Human markings showing the tunnel system. And there, marked with a star, "Exit to surface, Sector 7. There's a way out," she breathed. The people who lived here, they had an escape route. Marcus studied the map, his architect's mind translating the crude markings into three-dimensional space. "It's through there. Past the eastern cavern wall. Maybe half a mile of tunnel. Can we make it before they find us?" Marcus looked at her, and Nora sleeping fitfully on the bed, at the life they'd somehow managed to hold on to. "Yes," he said. "We can make it." Because the alternative, surrender, capture, returning to that arena, was impossible now. Somewhere between the moment Vorlek had demanded a choice and this moment in the ruins, something had changed. Marcus wasn't just saving strangers anymore. He was protecting people who mattered. People who, in the space of hours, had become important in a way he couldn't quite explain. Sienna's hand found his in the darkness, squeezed once, and let go. "Then we run again," she said. Together. They woke Nora gently, gathered what supplies they could carry. And as the sounds of pursuit echoed through the abandoned settlement, they slipped into the eastern tunnels, following a map scratched by desperate hands, hoping it would lead them to freedom. Behind them, Vorlak's guards swept through the ruins, finding nothing but empty buildings and fading footprints. Above them, somewhere far overhead, was a surface they'd never seen. A world they didn't know. But ahead of them, in the darkness, was the possibility of escape. And for now, possibility was enough.